Kumlan and Abba Gemara, we are up to in Sechta Gittin Daf Pei Vav Amid Aleph, the Mishnah, and actually we already had this Mishnah in the very, very beginning of this Masechta. When we discussed the argument of Meir and Rabbi Lazar, who are the primary Eidim, according to Rabbi Meir, when it says in the Torah of the Kosav that you should write, it means the Eidim should write. The Eidim signature is what activates the get. And according to Rabbi Lazar, no, the Kosav means that the writing of the get itself has to be Lishma, and you need Eidim Masira, Eidim to witness it. And the only reason why you have Eidim Sima is Tikkun Olam. In case in the future there are questions, we have signatures on it. So we learned over there that three Gittin which are puzzle, and it's not clear exactly who the author of this Mishnah is. Gittin are puzzle midrabanan. And the Gemara will discuss, so what is the net result? Says the Mishnah. Shloisha Gittin psulim, the three Gittin which are puzzle midrabanan. Number one. Sorry, before we get to that, Im Nisas Havlat Kosher. But if she got married, the child is not a mamzer. So also midrabanan, the child is not a mamzer. What we also learned previously is that Reb Meir holds that Kol HaMeshana, if you in any way alter the laws of Chachamim when it comes to Gittin, the child is a mamzer. Now, yet it's possible that author of this mission is Reb Meir. We'll see in a minute. So that three Gittin are puzzle, but if she married, the child is not a mamzer. So what about, can she get married based on these things? We say no, it's possible. But if she did get married, do we insist that she has to leave her husband, or once she got married, she can remain there? I mean, all the Mishnah talks about is the status of the children. What about she herself? We'll see more later as well. Case number one. Kosav Biksav Yodeh, the husband wrote the get, but there ain't all of them, there are no witnesses on it. So according to Rabbi Lazar, it's still a good star. According to Rabbi Meir, if the author of the Mishnah is a man, how can this be a good star? You altered the law. The law, you have to aid him. So the pshat is that the writing of the husband is greater than two eidim. It's like we have a rule: if the husband wrote the get itself, it's equal to 100 eidim, and therefore it's like there's eidim there. Didn't alter. Case number two: yesh all of eidim. So first case is there were no witnesses on it at all. That the husband wrote it. Case number two: there were witnesses on it, but the aim was man. There's no date. And we learned already enough. You're dying there. That it's very important to have a date there. We had an argument is why you should have it. Why you should date the get? Is it to ensure that you don't go protect your wife who happens to be your niece and she committed znus? So you're going to backdate, say that the get was already given prior to this event, so she doesn't get punished, or is it like the Shlakish says, because you're going to go then collect from people who purchase properties, and she'll say, hey, I already was divorced. It's my property. You have no right to buy it in the first place. Okay, so there's no date on it. Again, it's only Medurabanim. Yesh man, there is a date. There's only one witness there. If there's only one witness there, so according to Rabbi Lazar, okay, you have Eidim Masida. But according to Rabbi Meir, how can it be? It could be that is you have the Sefer as well, who wrote the get, so maybe it's considered like that two Eidim there. Okay. These three get my puzzle, but if she went ahead and proceeded to get married, the child is still kosher. Rabbi Lezer says, ain't all of Eidim. In fact, you don't need Eidim at all on the get. So that in itself indicates to us that the author of this mission is not Rabbi Lezer. Because the author of the mission, Rabbi Lezer, the way you're coming in here, middle of the Mishnah, and saying whatever he's saying here. And the goyim in the chasim shabbat, we could even collect. No, if she has no ksuba, she just has the get. You can use the get in a place you don't have ksuba. The get is the proof. Or we're talking about other contracts. No reason why, according to Rabbi Lazar, why witnesses sign the get is so we have, in case benefit in the future, can always prove the veracity of the get. Says the Gemara, first, the fact that the Mishnah highlights twice. Shloisha Gittin psulim, that's in the ratio. It says three, as if to say there are no others. And then he concludes, and then he says, Hare Elu Shloisha Gittin psulim. It says twice, three, and not what. So this is the Gemara. So there's no more. There are plenty of other cases I can tell you where only pasum that are abundant. For example, a get yoshin. A get that a husband wrote to his wife, and then they spent time together in a hotel. I mean, not that we know if anything happened, and you shouldn't be using that get again. You shouldn't be using that get. And if you did, it's possible to Rabbanan. Same thing. And then we say that if she got married, she doesn't have to leave her husband. You shouldn't use the get, but take it back and give it her again. Issue it again. But if she did get married, she doesn't have to leave her husband. So the Gemara is going to say, that in our Mishnah there's actually going to be a machlekes amaroim. Okay, we talked about the status of the children. What about her? Does she have to leave her husband, or she can remain with her husband? So we're going to try to make a distinction, at least according to that Amida that says that over here you have to leave your husband. So how somebody get Yoshan if she got married, if she used it to get married to another person, let's say she doesn't have to leave her husband. But over here, say in our Mishnah, it's not only this it's only the status of the child that we're concerned about. We say the child is not a mamzer, but she herself, if there were no children, she has to leave the marriage. So it's not the same din. These three that we aggregated here, dinim that not only that she herself was so strict. If she proceeded to get married based on these three gittin that are apostle, she needs to leave her husband. This other case you mentioned, get Yoshan, she does not have to leave her husband. So that's different. Says well, that only suits the mandama that says so. This will make sense. There's no children. There's no children. You're right. Once you have children, she doesn't leave either because she doesn't mean mitzi laws on the children. That makes sense according to the Mandamra says that Takana Mishnah, the only thing the Mishnah highlights is that the status of the children, which means that she herself has to leave if there were no children involved. And the Mishnah also is talking about that once she got married, she's just can remain married, so why don't we include Get Yoshamai? So we answered because there's another leniency. Even according to the Mandama that says that she got married here, she doesn't have to leave the marriage. That's only talking about if she got married, she doesn't have to leave. But if she asked her, can I get married based on this get? They'll say no. In the case of the get Yoshon, if she go ahead and get married. Says the Gemara. What do you mean? If she got divorced, in other words, we tell the husband give the get to her again. If the husband didn't, and use the get. No, the get Yoshem was there waiting, didn't use it yet. If the husband decided to give that particular get to his wife, the chatchila she can go ahead and get married. We tell her husband not to, but if she did, you can go get married. In our case, the chatchila definitely she shouldn't marry anybody. So okay, let's talk about the next case. What about the case we learned a few days ago? Get kedach. What about the get mekusher, where you have all these folds and witnesses and have to sign? And if we say there's a blank spot there, you shouldn't use that get. And how come we don't include that? That's only because Kainim, had to simmer down. They had the temper. At least those Kainim did. Hasam havlad mamzer. Over there, if you didn't follow our rule and you use the get that has a fold with no witness sign, the child is actually a mamzer. On the other hand, over here. Vlad kosher, Vlad is a kosher. Now remember, who holds the Vlad as mamzer? Only Rab Meir that says you deviated from our takana, the Vlad is a mamzer. Hanichel Rab Meir, that makes sense. Okay, so you said get kedach is different than our Mishnah because according to Rab Meir, that kol ha-meshanim ha-beish div'chachamim begitin ha-Vlad mamzer. The child was a mamzer. He didn't follow our rules. Fine. El Rabban meikel meima. The Rabban hold that in that case, by get kedach also it's not a mamzer. So why doesn't it include this in our Mishnah? Says the Gemara, Hosam. Over there, I get kedach, even according to Chum will hold the child on a mamzer, but if she got married, she has to leave. In our Mishnah, there's one opinion that says that if she got married, she can remain. That will only make sense according to that Moed. It says that in our Mishnah, if she got married, she can stay there. The one says they have to get out. What are you going to say? So we answered the mekusha leikamaidi. It's not a normal get. We're talking about normal get. And mekusha is a unique case by a kohen, and that's not the kind of case we're talking about. Says the Gemara, okay, what about the next thing we learned? We go through every single din that we learned in this parak about, din in which we're rabbanon. If you don't follow, we're not happy. Well, we said you have to date it to the local monarch. And again, and it's possible rabbanon if you don't. Says the Gemara, Hossam, over there, even the rabbanon agree. If you didn't date it correctly, you did it to Malchus She'ena Higenis, an incorrect country or a different country, then you have to exit the marriage. So if you learn that our Mishnah holds you can remain married, then we see why it's different than our Mishnah. So the Gemara Hasam Teitze. Hacha now Mishnah Leis Teitze. So again the Gemara asks, that only makes sense according to the Mandama. It says in our Mishnah you don't have to leave the marriage. El Mandama Teitze, but according to one said that even in our Mishnah you have to leave the marriage. So why don't we include this case of Shalom Malchus? So the answer. So, okay, go to the principle. There, the child's a mamzer if you follow a mayor. Says he, this makes sense according to the mayor because he holds if you deviate the chum. So we answer mukim lo kedra mayor. We're going to learn that our Mishnah attack is a mayor. How can our Mishnah be a mayor? There's one case where there's no edim, and yet it says that it's kosher. So I told you, because Tracy already said before that, and Rashi here, that it's a ksav yad of the husband, and the ksav yad of the husband is tantamount to having two eidim here. So therefore it's good enough. And eid echad as well, because you have the ksav sefer. So the Gemara, v'hasav avlad mamzer, yeah, mukla rameir. V'hasav avlad mamzer hachal kosher. Here the same rameir holds the child as kosher for the reasons we just explained. Says the Gemara, okay, minyan dereishel b'tamai, minyan sefer b'tamai, begins as three gittin and then it concludes three gittin again. What are you trying to exclude? Obviously, all these cases we just mentioned. Minyan dereishel b'tamai, all the cases we just mentioned. Yes, why is that included? We're negating those, excluding those. Minyan the sefer l'muteh hadatani we learned those also in the beginning of Masechta. Hamayvi get medina siyam. If somebody brings a get from overseas, the law is he's supposed to say before nechtav and nechtav. Now, what happens? You actually saw everything. You did everything correctly. You forgot to say it. So Rameir says that got a problem, and if she gets remarried, the child's a mamzer. The Chama say you just got to take and give back to her again. So maybe given his son-in-law, Meir holds that she got married, the children mamzer because he deviated from the Chachamim. The Chama says ain't have vlad mamzer. Chachamim say that the vlad is not mamzer. Kate said, so what should you do? You take it from her, give it back to her, and say again for nechtav. So therefore, we're not including that case over here. Says the Gemara. Why? Because why am I including it? Because remember, the author of our Mishnah might be a mayor, and a mayor holds within the child a mamzer, and over here the mayor said the child is not a mamzer, so that's why it's not included in our Mishnah. It's excluded. The next case in the Mishnah is the first case is kosa b'ksav yodai, that while the husband wrote it in his own handwriting, there ain't all of no witnesses. Omar Rav says ksav yodai, he wrote it in his own handwriting. So the Gemara, hi, what should I refer to? Ilay Maresh, on this very case we just said that he said the Mishnah kosa b'ksav yodai, kosa b'ksav yodai done. It's clear in the Mishnah. He wrote it in his own handwriting. The Ella must be talking about MCs, the middle case, which is there were witnesses, but there was no recorded date. What do you mean? Rav says if ksav yodai, who needs his handwriting? Anybody can write because you had two agents there. Ella, sefer, the very third case. Third case was you have a sefer and an eid echad. There's two ways of understanding the sefer, which we had before. There's two ways of understanding the case. One way of understanding the case is that the sefer wrote, as eight signed. So you have one eight signing, but we know there's a sefer there. The other way of learning is no, the sefer also signed. And the question is, are we worried that really the husband never told the sefer to sign, but the shliach who went out to find somebody to sign was embarrassed to get two of eight and then go to say we only want to use you. So therefore, he gave the sefer the cover of signing. That's the chash. So comes along Rav and says, no, it's talking about it here. I'll say for yesh man the el beidecha. So he's saying over here that the ksav sefer, the davke ksav yodoi ve'ei davke. So Rav is saying here ksav yodoi. Who wrote this get? If there's only one aid, who wrote this get? The husband had to write the get because if the sefer wrote the get, you only have one witness. But ksav sefer is no good. Now, you're going to say before that. What's going on here? The first case is there are no witnesses, and the husband wrote the get is valid. So you're telling me now that if the husband wrote and there's one witness, the get is valid. Why would you think? If anything, it's better than the first case. Isn't it repetitive? So Rashi says no. You know why? Because remember in the Mishnah, lechatchila should not get married. In all the cases, we in fact had a machlekes. She did get married. Does she have to? Can she remain married or leave the marriage? But she should not. In our Mishnah, she can get married. But we would have thought if the Mishnah only told the first case that the husband wrote, no witnesses, she should not get married with this. But if there was one witness with the husband writing, maybe even the Chatchila shouldn't get married because you have the husband who wrote, you have that Mila, plus you have a witness. Says the Mishnah, no, that even in the case, even there's a single witness, because you don't have two, the Chatchila shouldn't get married. So that's what I was saying here. However, Shmuel disagrees. Shmuel that Felix have sefer day. He said it doesn't have to be the husband. It could be one witness, a single witness, and a sefer is good enough. We learned clearly that Ksav sefer we had it before. The aid kosher that the sefer wrote, and an aid, and one aid signed is kosher. The Rav what's Rav going to say? There in the Mishnah, we'll see later on, sounds like if a sefer wrote and an aid, the Chatchil get married. Must be that the sefer didn't just write. The sefer signed. It's a totally different case. Here we're talking about a writing with an eid echad, and therefore says Rab, it can only be if the husband wrote, not if the sefer wrote. Oh, Shmuel, Shmuel, no. Even if the sefer wrote, it's some, and no witness, just one witness is good enough. Why? He holds that the next mission is not like a Yirmiyah who said that the sefer signed together with an eid echad. No, the next mission is that says this Kasha is talking about the sefer wrote the star and one eid and the chatchili can get married. Our mission says the sefer wrote and an eid and the chatchili should get married. Why? What's the difference? There's a difference if the sefer is an expert or just an ordinary layman. And that is as follows. Besafa the movie, Sefer is an expert and he wrote it. We can rely that everything done 100%, and that's the next mission. The Chatchil should get married based on that. And therefore, he would not have written the get unless he was instructed by the husband. But this mission here is to Besafa the line movement, not an expert. And we're worried that maybe he just wrote the get without being instructed to. Said the same thing. Like Rav, that he said that the husband in our mission here is the husband together with an aid. It's the husband with an aid. It says there that he thought that Rabbi Yechanan's comment was on the middle case. There's no date but 2 agents. So what did he Ksav Yodeh for? The same discussion we had a minute ago with Rav, the same discussion here. It's the last case in the Mishnah. It was a Ksav of the get and an Eid Echad. And therefore he says that Ksav, according to Rabbi Yechanan's agrees with Rav, it had to be the Sefer himself. Rav says, Zimnin Rav, something that I would say in these 3 cases, not only the child might be kosher, but she herself, Teitze, has to leave the marriage. As sometimes he would say, no, once you get married, it's all right. She shouldn't get married, but if she got married, it's all right. Okay, so how does that work? Yes, Labanim, if she had children, we don't want to cast aspersions on the children because the Mishnah says that the children are kosher. She should not leave the marriage. We're talking about she had children before she knew there was a problem with the get. If she has no children, then Teitze. If she has no children, then she has to leave the marriage. So Rab holds she has to leave the marriage. It's only when children come into the scene. And it says there we had 15 arroyos in the beginning of Masechta Yevamos, and we said that these arroyos, if they're married to Reuven, let's say an erva to Shimon's daughter, and another woman, and then if Reuven dies, not only obviously Shimon's daughter can marry Shimon, but the tzara, the co-wife, also does not have to marry because she's a co-wife of an erva. So it says in the Mishnah, it says it with like follows. The Kulan in all of these cases, if there was a Safek Kedushin, if the erva is questionable whether she was married to Reuben or not, or something or whether she was divorced from Reuben before Reuben died. So it's a question whether the tzara is the tzara of an erva or not the co-wife of an erva. So what do? You can't get married because maybe you're the co-wife of an erva. You don't just walk free because maybe you're not the co-wife of an erva. Ketzad Safek Kedushin. What's the Safek Kedushin we had before the Gemara? Zadla Kedushin through you toss in Kedushin. Safek Kar of Lai, Safek Kar of Law. Question whether close the was for her. Zero Safek Kedushin. Safek Gedushin. What's a Safek Gedushin? Kosav B'Ksav Yodei. What's a Safek Gedushin? Kosav B'Ksav Yodei. You wrote with your handwriting, and there ain't all of Eidim. There were no witnesses. Or yes, there was the 3 cases in our Mishnah. It's called a Safek here. What is Safek? Because it's only Asim and the Rabban. In other words, the question is, Mahatayid, it's a valid get. But the Rabban is not a valid get. So are you considered the co-wife of a tzara? Yes, but yes, but now, if you are going to say loy teitze, if you're going to say loy teitze, that what? That once she got married, she doesn't leave with his get. So Rasa Asya Libum, what's going to happen is if we see that the erva went ahead and so not the erva, if we see that the tzara of the erva, if we say that the erva used the get, in other words, what happened? Reuven gave the get to the daughter of Shimon, one of these Gittin, 3 Gittin. If you're telling me that she has to leave her husband, like Rab said, right? No true leave her husband, which then tells us, indicates to us, what would we think? It's not a valid get. She's sorry. If we say that loy says, if we say that she does not have to leave her husband, right? If she married this get, if you don't have to leave her husband. So what that can tell us must be it's a good get. If it's a good get, that means that Reuben, when he died, was no longer married to an erva. because the Mariah, he gave her a get, and she got married, and she's married, happily married. So then the co-wife of that Erva is going to go ahead and marry Shimon. So what's good? What's going to happen is that the tzara is going to go ahead and marry. So even if there were children involved, we should force the lady to go outside of a marriage, to leave a marriage. Otherwise, you're going to be, let's say, children involved with the new husband. We're going to have a problem with the co-wife. Says the Gemara. Says who cares? We don't really care because it is a good get. And if Ma'atayra could get Ma'atayra, the Erva is not the wife of Reuven, Ma'atayra. And therefore Ma'atayra, really the co-wife has to marry the Yavam. The Rabbanan don't because of the issues we have here. But she did. What's the problem? However, Levi disagrees. He says, he says in all cases, even with no children involved, once you got married, let it stay the way it is. Said like Levi should never leave. Your father told me. Your father said once she got married, based on one of those three gittin, even with no children involved, she does not leave the marriage. By the way, you said your father told me something else as well. He told me that a karatzis sheba omer, if you found this fly in a omer in a pile of grains, ain't a paiselas or in a big pile there. This particular fly, mechatis is water used for paraduma, has to be pure. And we know that if a bird drinks from the water, you cannot use it anymore for paraduma. But if this particular fly drank from that water, it does not become possible. The deeps of the Beina Kifre. We're talking about over here the fly that's found amongst amongst grains. Most of the but when how can it be still water kosher? We learn the only one is a dove. But why is a dove different nation? No, it's all other birds. They drink some and they put some back, and it's possible either because of malacha, like a malacha, because you bring the water back in, or other things, but. A dove when it slurps, it doesn't send any water back into the cup. Now, according to you, there's one more. There's this karatzis. It's not so simple because some karatzis yes, some karatzis no. The G'dayla le pasel k'tan le pasel. G'dayla does not pasel, k'tan does pasel. Va'ad kama to what size? Amar Rabbi Yotem Rabba akazayis. But a large one is not because it drinks it all up, and a small one, Tulakazayis does. Rabbi Loza says, Afapi. Rabbi Loza says, all we care about is Eidim Mesida. But it sounds like in the mission he's talking about Gittin, he's talking about other stores as well. Only by Gittin, Rabbi Loza. Shmuel holds even by Shtaris. Even in all contracts, we look at the Eidim Mesida. But Rav Sava b'Shtaris loy. But Rav holds that Rabbi Loza doesn't argue by Shtaris. It says clearly in the Mishnah, Begravim and the Chasim Shabbatim. What do you mean collecting from sold properties? That's talking about loans. And you can go collect from the assets that he unsold. Rabbi says two din, Gittin and other contract. And Rav Sava Kavasi B'chad, Paluga B'chad. He only rules like Rabbi when it comes to Gittin. Rabbi Yana says, according to Chachamim, if not a blogger, according to Chacham, then there's not even nothing happening. But these gittins, there's not even a reicha get. Remember, we said a reicha get, she can never marry a kohen if the husband dies. But here, it's not even a reicha get. So the Gemara, Rabbi Yana listen Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Yana doesn't hold like what's Rabbi Yana saying here? Rabbi Lazar says that if you have eidim, it's a valid get. Come along, Rabbi Yana says no, not even a reicha get. Those who argue with us, they hold Eid Chasimim because you didn't do the correct way here. I feel like I get them, but it's not even Recha yet. Rabbi Yochanan says, by the Chamin and Lema, Rabbi Yochanan, same discussion. Lema had a discussion by Rabbi Yochanan as well, the same thing. Lema, you'll say, Rabbi Yochanan, let's say Rabbi Lazar, it doesn't pass like Rabbi Lazar. I feel like I get them, according to Rabbanan, it's not even, it doesn't even smell like it yet. Like him or not? Abuna passed away, so they went to his son. Rabba, his son, they asked him, what does your father say? My father said name of Rabba. And halacha, which is hard to understand, because Abuna would have been Rabba's teacher. Must be Rabba. Doesn't say that, but it says that we read. Okay. Okay, Rav. Okay. Rav. Halacha k'Rabbi Elazar begitten. Halacha k'Rabbi Elazar begitten. But Rabbi said, "Bekim b'davar halacha shel Rabbeinu Amru halacha k'Rabbi Elazar begitten." Rabbeinu is Rav, and they said, and Rabbi my Rebbe, who are no halacha, say name of Rav. So yeah, so both of them are Rav. So why break them up into two? Amru halacha k'Rabbi Elazar begitten. The halacha is like Rabbi Elazar begitten. Amru Chum Baguy Amar Rav halacha Rabbi Elazar begitten. So only by gittin the halacha is like Rabbi Elazar. You could amri the chavarenu habekim with halacha the talmidei Rabbeinu. And the Talmidim of Rab, Rabbeinu Amru halacha k'Rabbi Elazar begitten. Amru Chum Baguy Amar Rav halacha Rabbi Elazar begitten. Think of Rabbi Elazar halacha k'Rabbi Elazar begitten. And yet most of the Shayim hold that halacha is like Rabbi Elazar in gittin and in shtaris. Rab definitely holds only limited to gittin. Okay, Mishnah. Two people sent two gittin that were identical. The husband and the wife both had exactly the same name. What happened was, V'nis Arbu, the gittin got mixed up. So the get number one ended up with wife number two, and get number two ended up with wife number one. Nice, now we don't know whose is what. No, we're not sorry. The gittin got mixed up. We don't know whose is whose. Nice and shneim lezu, shneim lezu. So therefore, you give both gittin to each wife. This way, one of them is valid. If you lost one of them, we don't know which one is the one that's remaining. Obviously, the other get you cannot use. Five people wrote a general get. We'll soon see what klal means. Each they wrote like this: Each pliny megadish pliny, so pliny. Yankel's divorcing Leah. They want to save money, so they put 5 men and 5 women, and in pairs, couples. And the Eidim Alamata, and the Eidim then sign on the very bottom. Kulan Shen all kosher. The Yinasin the Chalech. There's only one get, so you give it one to the woman, then she gives it back to you. Give the next one, so on and so forth. Hoya Kaisef Taifis the Chalech. If you wrote the Taifis, the standard part of the get, and the Gemara will explain in a minute what Taifis is. In this case, the Eidim Alamata, the Eidim sign on the bottom. Esha Eidim Nikima kosher. The very bottom name of the last couple is kosher. The rest not. What's going on here? What is the difference between the Taifis of the get or the first part of the get? In this case of the Eidim, says the Gemara. Mantana, it says that the takana is you give both to both. Who is the author of this Mishnah? The like Rabbi Elazar. This cannot be like Rabbi Elazar. Why? He holds that the Eidim Mesir Karsa. We believe that when it says in the Torah of a Kasav, you should write Lishma. It's not only the writing, but also the Eidim Mesir. They have to know who the get was written for and so on, and they don't know. You give them two documents. They don't know which is the right one. One of them definitely is right, but they don't know, and you need Lishma. That's what he said. That's what he believes. Comes along Abai and says, no, I feel Rabbi Elazar. Aim with the Rabbi Elazar Ksiva Lishma. When it says in the Torah of a Kasav and Nasan, the writing has to be Lishma. Or Benesina Lishma. Me boy, where does he say that the giving has to be Lishma? Chamishi Kosher Klal. If I wrote a Klal, Heichidami Klal. What's the definition of a Klal and Heichidami Teifis? Klal, you say as many couples as you want, and Teifis only the very last couple. Rabbi Yechon says the following. If you have one date on the get for everybody, Zeu Klal. That's called a klal. It looks like all written in unison. It's all done properly. So the Eidim are signed on all the names that are included in the get. But right now we think he wrote a separate date for each one. This is written on the 2nd day of Sivan. This is on the 3rd day of Sivan, and so on and so forth. Zeu Teifis. That's called the Teifis, and that is only the Eidim obviously are only signed with the very last name. The Gemara. The Shlokish, that's what Shlokish says. I feel it's man echel the kulanami have tape. You can have one date. It's still called a tape. It's no good. What do you mean? Elehechadami klal. What's a klal? The cost of onu plani girashna shasaynu plani. You put them all together. Onu, then you list all the men. Separating the wives in order, and then you separating all the wives, and then you list all their wives in order. In order, yeah. Yeah. So klal, yeah. So the way a klal is, you wrote all on the same date. You wrote Yankel is divorcing Leah, and Betel is divorcing this, and you go through all 5 couples and you put them all together. However, and we'll see in a minute. So we'll see in a minute what type is this. The Gemara. Sorry. Taifas is when you write couple by couple. So even though they're all the same date, if you wrote couple by couple, the Eidim sign on the bottom, all we know is that the Eidim saw the last couple, not the couple that precede that, because the last couple is a hefsek between all the other names and this one here, and this one here. So you more explain. So a klal is if you put all the men and then all the women, and the taifas is couple by couple. Couple by couple, we say the last couple is separating the Eidim from the rest. One master about Rabbi Yechon said differences if it's the same date or not. Zeu klal, that's called a klal. So why isn't he worded like what Shloki said? Maybe they're only signing the very last name. Maybe he's only supporting the very last name. We learned. For example, you have a get, and on the bottom of the get, you're right, and shalom or something, some nice greeting, and Adam sign underneath that. We say the get is possible because the only thing the Adam are signing is that yes, we're also joining in the greetings. The get possible. So how can we going to say that that if it's the same date, everything kosher b'yasher? So Gemara says that's simple. Lav itmala. Didn't we learn? When do we say she'ilah shalom is a problem? Shalu pasul. If you wrote she'ilah shalom or dish shalom, then the Adam sign underneath that is pasul. But this shalom, there's a vav, a conjunctional vav, which means that this is all part of the same get. Then kosher is kosher. Is hachi nami? So here too. According to if you wrote the same date, when's the kosher? The kosher be pliny, pliny. You keep on adding above, yankel, and metal, and this, and that, and that. So then it becomes like one story, and the Adam assigned on the whole thing. More than said, says if you have a separate date for each one is taifis, it's a bigger problem. The problem is taifis. The problem is that we learned in Daf Yud Zayin that if you write a get today and you sign tomorrow, it's a problem because you're going to be taking lekuchas incorrectly. Why you call the problem here taifis? Because we're assuming they're all written different days. Not if there were different dates, they were different times. Each one has their own day, but it's all the same day. So it's not nechter b'yem and nechter b'layla. All the achreinim, all others want to know. We did learn before that if it was signed a long time later, then people already know that. No, the Stam Mukdim, we're worried about the day apart, 2 days apart. But if it's like a long time later, we're not worried. So if this is like a long time later, what's the big deal? Anyway.